The ballroom at the Grand Belmont Hotel was absolutely packed that Friday night. Everywhere you looked, there were people dressed to the nines. The women wore gowns that probably cost more than a car payment, and the men had on tuxedos that fit them perfectly. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, making everything sparkle. White-gloved waiters moved through the crowd carrying trays of champagne and tiny fancy foods that rich people love to eat at parties. This wasn't just some regular party, though. This was the big annual fundraiser for the Children's Hospital, and all the important people in the city were here. Business owners, doctors, lawyers, politicians, the kind of folks who wrote checks with lots of zeros on them. Everyone was in a good mood, laughing and talking about their vacation homes and their kids at expensive colleges. And there was Maya, trying her best to stay out of everyone's way while she worked. She balanced a heavy tray on one hand and squeezed between tables, picking up empty glasses and dirty plates. 28 years old, and she'd been doing this job for 3 years now. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. Well, some of them anyway. The thing about being a waitress at fancy events like this is that you become invisible. Rich people don't really see you. They see the champagne appearing in their hand. They see the food showing up on their table, but they don't see you as a person. You're just there, like the furniture. Maya had gotten used to it. Smile, nod, yes sir, yes ma'am, have a wonderful evening. Rinse and repeat 100 times a night. But Maya didn't mind being invisible tonight. She was tired. She'd been up since 5 in the morning, had worked a lunch shift at a diner across town, then rushed here for the evening gala. Tomorrow she had 2 classes at the community college where she was trying to finish her business degree. She'd started that degree almost 10 years ago, back when life was different. Back when her mom was still alive, her feet hurt in these shoes. Her back ached from carrying trays all day. But she needed this job. The hotel offered health insurance, and that was everything. Her younger brother Tommy needed that insurance. He had the same autoimmune disease their mom had died from, and without insurance his medications would cost thousands of dollars every month. So Maya smiled through the pain and kept working. She was clearing glasses from table 9 when she noticed something weird happening near the stage. Patricia, the event coordinator, was on her phone looking absolutely panicked. Patricia was one of those women who always seemed to have everything under control. Hair perfect, makeup perfect, clipboard in hand telling everyone what to do. But right now, she looked like her world was ending. Maya moved a little closer, pretending to wipe down a nearby table so she could hear better. Patricia's voice was shaky. What do you mean she's not coming? The event starts in 15 minutes. Maya's heart sank. She knew exactly who Patricia was talking about. Victoria Ashford, the famous pianist who was supposed to perform tonight. Maya had seen the posters all over the hotel for weeks. Victoria was a big deal, the kind of musician who performed at Carnegie Hall and got written about in fancy magazines. People had bought tickets to this fundraiser specifically because she was performing. Patricia was making another call now, her fingers fumbling with her phone. Hi, this is Patricia Chen from the Grand Belmont. We have an emergency situation. Is there any way you could perform tonight? Pause. Her face fell even more. You're in another state, right, of course. Thank you anyway. Another call. Same desperate tone. I know it's last minute, but we'll pay double your usual rate. Pause. You're already performing somewhere else tonight. I understand. Maya watched as Patricia made call after call. Every pianist in the city was either booked or couldn't get there in time. With each rejection, Patricia looked more desperate, and the guests were starting to notice something was wrong. The conversations in the ballroom were getting quieter. People were checking their watches. A few couples near the door were already making moves to leave. This was bad, really bad. Maya knew how these fundraisers worked. She'd worked enough of them. People came for the entertainment. The entertainment put them in a generous mood. That generous mood led to big donations. Without the star performer, without that emotional high point of the evening, the hospital would lose out on thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maya thought about the Children's Hospital. She knew that place pretty well. Tommy had spent 6 months there when he was first diagnosed at 14. The nurses had been incredible, patient and kind even during the scary nights when they didn't know if Tommy would be okay. The doctors had figured out the right treatment, saved his life, really. But the bills from those 6 months? They destroyed her family financially. Her mom had been sick herself by then, so she couldn't work. Maya had been 19, in her second year of college on a music scholarship. She'd had to drop out and get a job. Any job that would help pay those massive medical bills. That's why this fundraiser mattered. Kids like Tommy needed that hospital. Families like hers needed the financial assistance programs the hospital offered. Without tonight's donations, some family would struggle the way hers had struggled. Another couple was putting on their coats, making polite excuses to leave. Patricia looked like she might actually cry. She was making one more desperate phone call, and Maya could hear it wasn't going well. Maya's hands started shaking. She set down her tray before she dropped it. Her heart was beating so fast it felt like it might jump right out of her chest. What she was thinking about doing was completely insane. These people didn't even see her as a real person. She was the help, the waitress. Why would they want to hear her play piano? But she could play. She could play really, really well. Before everything fell apart with her mom and Tommy, Maya had been a serious music student. She'd gotten a full scholarship to the city conservatory, one of the best music schools in the region. Her piano teacher had told her she had genuine talent, the kind that could lead to a professional career if she worked hard enough. And Maya had worked hard. 6 hours of practice every single day, competitions on weekends, recitals, master classes. She'd been good enough to win awards, good enough that people said she might actually make it as a concert pianist. Then her mom got the diagnosis. Stage 4. Someone needed to work. Someone needed to take care of Tommy. Someone needed to be the grown-up. Their dad had left when Maya was 8 and Tommy was 5, so it was just the 3 of them. The scholarship covered tuition but not groceries or rent or medical bills. So Maya left school and started waiting tables. That was 7 years ago. 7 years since she'd performed for an audience. But she'd never completely stopped playing. She couldn't. Music was part of who she was, like breathing. After her late shifts at the hotel, when the building was quiet and almost empty, Maya would sneak over to the grand piano in the lobby. The security guards knew her and they pretended not to notice. From midnight until 1 or 2 in the morning she'd play Chopin, Rachmaninoff, Debussy, Gershwin, all the pieces she'd learned in school. All the techniques her teachers had drilled into her. Her fingers remembered everything even after all these years. More people were leaving now. Patricia had given up on phone calls and was just standing there frozen, probably trying to figure out what to tell all these wealthy donors who'd paid $500 a plate for dinner and a concert. Maya took a deep breath. This was stupid. This was going to be humiliating. She'd probably get fired. But her feet started moving before her brain could stop them. "Excuse me," Maya said quietly, walking up to Patricia. Her voice came out barely louder than a whisper. Patricia turned around, irritation written all over her face. "What is it?" "I'm dealing with a crisis here." Maya's throat felt tight. "I heard about the pianist. I just wanted to say, I could play, if you need someone. I mean, I know how to play piano." Patricia stared at her, really stared, like Maya had just suggested she could fly to the moon. Her eyes moved from Maya's face down to her simple black waitress uniform, the sensible non-slip shoes, the name tag pinned to her chest. "You're joking," Patricia finally said. "No, ma'am. I'm serious. I studied music. I can play classical pieces, jazz, contemporary, whatever you need for the event." Patricia's expression was somewhere between disbelief and desperation. She glanced at the stage, then at another couple heading for the exit, then back at Maya. You could see her doing the math in her head. A waitress playing piano versus no entertainment at all. It was a terrible choice either way. "Fine," Patricia said through gritted teeth. "But I swear, if you get up there and embarrass this hotel, you're done. You understand me?" "Done," Maya nodded. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. What had she just agreed to? Maya's co-worker Rosa found her in the staff changing room, practically hyperventilating. Rosa had been working at the hotel for 15 years and had seen everything, but even she looked shocked when Maya told her what was about to happen. "Are you crazy?" Rosa whispered, glancing toward the door to make sure no one else could hear. "You're going to play piano? In front of all those people?" "I think I might throw up," Maya said, sitting down on the bench by the lockers. Her whole body was shaking now, not just her hands. "Rosa, what did I just do? I can't do this. I should go tell Patricia I changed my mind." Rosa grabbed Maya's shoulders and looked her straight in the eye. "Listen to me. You've been sneaking down to that lobby piano for 3 years. I've heard you play when I'm closing up the kitchen. You're incredible. Like really incredible. Those rich people out there? They need to hear what you can do. But I'm just a waitress. They're going to laugh at me. So what if they do? Rosa said. At least you tried. At least you're brave enough to try. Now come on, we need to find you something better to wear than that uniform. Maya didn't have much in her locker. She'd never needed fancy clothes for work. But she did have a simple black dress she kept there for job interviews. It wasn't anything special, just something she'd bought at a discount store a few years ago. No sparkles, no designer label. But it was clean and professional, and it would have to do. Rosa helped her change, then stepped back to look at her. You look good. You look like someone who belongs on that stage. Maya didn't feel like she belonged anywhere near that stage. She felt like she was about to walk into a disaster. But it was too late to back out now. Rosa gave her hand a quick squeeze for luck, and then Maya was walking back out into the ballroom. The crowd hadn't thinned out too much yet, but people were definitely restless. The conversations had that edge to them, that sound of people getting ready to make excuses and leave early. Patricia was at the microphone on stage trying to keep everyone's attention. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience, Patricia was saying, her voice tight but professional. We've had a last-minute change to our evening's entertainment. Victoria Ashford unfortunately fell ill and cannot be with us tonight. There were disappointed murmurs throughout the ballroom. A few more people started gathering their things. Patricia continued quickly. However, we are fortunate to have a replacement performer this evening who will be playing for us. Maya's legs felt like jelly as she walked toward the stage. A few people glanced her way, but most weren't even paying attention. They were too busy being disappointed about Victoria. Maya climbed the 3 steps up to the stage, and that's when people started to notice. You could see the confusion on their faces. Who was this woman in the simple black dress? Why did she look familiar? Wait, wasn't she the waitress who'd been serving them earlier? The whispers started. Maya could hear bits and pieces as she crossed the stage toward the beautiful grand piano. Is that the girl who brought us appetizers? Why is the waitress on stage?
What is happening right now?
Patricia had already left the microphone and was walking off stage as fast as she could, like she wanted to distance herself from whatever disaster was about to happen. Maya was on her own now. She sat down at the piano bench and the whispers got louder. Some people were amused. Some looked offended. Like Maya being on stage was an insult to them. A few looked curious, willing to give her a chance. The piano was gorgeous. A Steinway Grand, glossy black. Probably worth more than Maya would earn in 5 years. She'd walked past it 100 times while working, had admired it from a distance, but she'd never imagined she'd actually get to play it. She adjusted the bench, positioned her feet on the pedals, and let her fingers rest lightly on the keys. The ballroom wasn't completely quiet. People were still talking, still making comments about the strange situation. Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She thought about her mom, about how she used to sit and listen to Maya practice for hours, how proud she'd been of her daughter's talent. She thought about Tommy, about all those nights in the hospital, about why she was really here. Then she started to play. The piece she chose was Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. It was one of her favorites. One she'd played so many times she could do it in her sleep. The opening notes were soft, delicate, almost like a whisper. And something magical happened. The talking in the ballroom started to fade, not all at once, but gradually, like someone was slowly turning down the volume on the crowd. Maya's fingers moved across the keys with a confidence she didn't know she still had. 7 years. It had been 7 years since she'd performed in front of anyone. But her hands remembered everything. The way to shape a phrase, the exact moment to press the pedal, how to make the melody sing above the accompaniment. All those hours of practice as a teenager, all those lessons with demanding teachers, all that muscle memory was still there, just waiting to be used. The nocturne flowed from soft and gentle to more passionate, then back to gentle again. Maya poured everything into it. All her frustration about dropping out of school, all her grief about her mom, all her worry about Tommy, all her exhaustion from working 2 jobs and going to night school. It all came out through her fingers, through this beautiful piano, through this piece of music that Chopin had written almost 200 years ago. When she finished the nocturne, there was complete silence in the ballroom. Complete. You could have heard a pin drop. Maya opened her eyes, suddenly terrified. Had she messed up? Was everyone just too shocked to react? Were they about to start laughing? But then she looked out at the audience, and what she saw surprised her. People were staring at her with their mouths open. That woman with the diamond necklace at table 12 had tears in her eyes. The man who'd been checking his expensive watch earlier had completely forgotten about it, leaning forward in his seat like he didn't want to miss a single note. Maya didn't give them time to react. She went straight into her next piece, Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C-sharp minor. This one was completely different from the Chopin. It was powerful, dramatic, technically challenging, the kind of piece that makes people understand just how hard it is to really play piano. Her hands flew across the keyboard, crossing over each other, reaching for notes at opposite ends of the piano, creating this huge, crashing sound that filled the entire ballroom. This wasn't gentle music. This was passionate, almost angry music, and Maya played it like she meant every single note. The frustration she'd been holding in for 7 years came pouring out. Why did bad things happen to good people? Why did her mom have to get sick? Why did she have to give up her dreams? Why was life so unfair? But even in the angry parts, there was beauty. That was the thing about Rachmaninoff. Even when the music was intense and powerful, it was still beautiful. It still moved something deep inside you. Maya finished with a flourish, her hands coming down hard on the final chord. The sound echoed through the ballroom and then silence again. But this time it only lasted a second. The applause started like thunder. Not just polite clapping, but real applause. The kind that's loud and enthusiastic and genuine. People weren't just being nice. They were actually impressed. Actually moved. The woman with the diamond necklace was definitely crying now, dabbing at her eyes with her napkin. Other people were standing up, and then more people. And suddenly the entire ballroom was on their feet, giving her a standing ovation. Maya sat frozen at the piano bench, hardly believing what was happening. These were the people who hadn't even seen her an hour ago. The people she'd been invisible to. And now they were standing for her, applauding for her, seeing her for the first time. But she wasn't done yet. She had more to say, more to play. While everyone was still standing and clapping, Maya transitioned into another piece. This time she chose Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, or at least the opening piano part of it. Jazz mixed with classical American music that everyone recognized. People started smiling, swaying a little to the rhythm. The mood in the room completely changed from somber and emotional to joyful and alive. Maya played for another 20 minutes, moving through different styles and composers. Debussy's Clair de Lune, which made people sigh with happiness. A few contemporary pieces that surprised everyone. Then she did something she hadn't planned. She started improvising, taking a popular song everyone knew and transforming it into something classical and sophisticated. Then another song and another, creating medleys and arrangements on the spot. The audience loved it. They were completely with her now, completely caught up in the music. Maya had won them over. The waitress who'd been invisible had become the star of the evening. Maya played one final piece, something she'd written herself years ago when she was still in music school. She'd never performed it for anyone except her mom, who'd heard it the week before she passed away. It was a simple melody, bittersweet and hopeful at the same time. As her fingers pressed the last chord, she held it, letting the sound fade slowly into silence. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the applause came again, even louder than before. People weren't just clapping anymore. They were cheering, actually cheering for her. Maya stood up from the piano bench on shaky legs. Her vision was blurry with tears. She couldn't quite believe what had just happened. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. She tried to walk off the stage quickly, wanting to disappear back into being invisible again. But she couldn't. People were already coming toward her, surrounding the stage area. Important-looking people in expensive clothes, all wanting to talk to her. Maya felt completely overwhelmed. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to play, help save the fundraiser, and then go back to clearing tables. A tall man in a perfectly tailored tuxedo reached her first. He had gray hair and kind eyes, and he was smiling at her like she'd just done something incredible. "That was extraordinary," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Robert Chen. I run the Chen Foundation. We fund arts education programs across the state." Maya shook his hand, still trying to process what was happening. Her own hand was trembling. "Thank you. I'm Maya Rodriguez." "Well, Maya Rodriguez, where did you learn to play like that?" Robert asked. His tone wasn't condescending or suspicious. He seemed genuinely curious. Before Maya could answer, more people gathered around. A woman with silver hair and an elegant black dress pushed through. Excuse me, she said with authority. "I'm Caroline Price. I write for the City Arts Journal." I have to know your story. How is someone with your talent working as a waitress? Maya felt her face get hot. She hadn't thought about this part. About having to explain why she'd given up music. Why she was here serving champagne instead of performing at concert halls. The questions kept coming from different people, all talking at once. Where did you train? Who was your teacher? Why haven't we heard of you before? Are you performing anywhere else in the city? Patricia appeared at Maya's elbow, looking completely different than she had an hour ago. The panic was gone from her face, replaced by something like amazement, and maybe a little bit of guilt. Perhaps we should give Maya some space, Patricia suggested, though even she seemed curious about the answers. But Maya found herself wanting to tell them. Maybe it was the adrenaline from performing, or maybe it was because she'd spent so long being invisible that it felt good to finally be seen. The words started tumbling out. I had a scholarship, she began, her voice quiet at first. To the city conservatory. I was studying classical piano performance. That was the plan anyway. I was going to be a concert pianist. She laughed a little, but it wasn't a happy sound. I was good enough, my teachers said. I won some competitions. Not huge ones, but enough to make me think I could actually do it. People were listening intently now. More guests had gathered around, forming a small crowd. The ballroom had gone quiet again, but this time everyone was focused on her story, not her music. My mom got sick during my second year, Maya continued. Cancer, stage 4. She couldn't work anymore, and the medical bills started piling up. My little brother Tommy was only 12, and someone needed to take care of him. Someone needed to pay for everything. My dad left when we were kids, so it was just us 3. She saw people's expressions change. Some looked sympathetic. Some looked uncomfortable, like they weren't used to hearing about problems this real at their fancy charity events. The scholarship only covered tuition, Maya explained. It didn't pay for rent or food or my mom's treatments. So I left school and got a job waitressing. I've been doing it ever since. That was 7 years ago. 7 years? Caroline the journalist looked shocked. You haven't played professionally in 7 years? Maya shook her head. I haven't performed for anyone in 7 years, but I still play. Late at night after my shifts here at the hotel, I practice on the piano in the lobby. The security guards let me. It's the only time I get to really play anymore. What about your mother? Someone asked gently. Is she doing better? Maya's throat tightened. She passed away 5 years ago. But Tommy's still here. He has the same autoimmune disease she had. He needs expensive medications every month. That's why I work here. The health insurance. I can't afford to lose it. The crowd around her had grown even larger. Maya could see the expressions on their faces changing from curiosity to something deeper. Understanding maybe, or pity. She wasn't sure which made her feel more uncomfortable. Robert spoke up again. So you've been juggling work and taking care of your brother and going to school? Night school, Maya nodded. Business degree. I'm trying to finish what I started, just in a different field. Something more practical, more reliable than music. But you're so talented, Caroline said, and she actually sounded angry about it. This is exactly the kind of story people need to hear. Talent being wasted because of circumstances beyond your control, the barriers that keep people from pursuing their gifts. A younger woman in a red dress had tears streaming down her face. I had no idea, she said. We were sitting at table 8 and you brought us drinks earlier. I didn't even really look at you. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Maya said automatically, though she wasn't sure it was. That's just how it is. No, Robert said firmly. That's not how it should be. Maya, what if I told you the Chen Foundation is looking for someone to be our featured performer and spokesperson, someone who represents what we're trying to do, which is make arts education accessible to everyone, regardless of their financial situation, someone who embodies the struggle and the triumph. Maya blinked. I don't understand. I'm offering you a job, Robert said simply. A real job. Performing at our events, working with our scholarship students, being the face of our programs. The salary would be $60,000 a year to start, plus benefits. Maya's knees almost gave out. $60,000. That was more than double what she made waitressing. With benefits. She could keep Tommy's insurance. She could quit her second job at the diner. She could maybe even finish school faster. I don't know what to say, she stammered. Say yes, Robert smiled. You can think about the details later, but please say yes. Before Maya could respond, Caroline jumped in. And I want to write a feature article about you. A real story, not just a quick mention. Your journey, your talent, what you've sacrificed. People need to hear this. Other musicians need to hear this. With your permission, of course. Maya felt dizzy. This was too much, too fast. An hour ago, she'd been carrying dirty plates and trying not to get fired. Now these important people were offering her opportunities she'd stopped dreaming about years ago. There's something else, a voice said from the edge of the crowd. A woman stepped forward, holding the hand of a young girl in a wheelchair. The girl looked about 10 years old with big brown eyes and a shy smile. My daughter heard you play. She has cerebral palsy, and she's always wanted to learn piano, but every teacher we've talked to has said it would be too difficult, that maybe she should try something else. The mother's voice cracked a little. But watching you tonight, seeing how you put everything into your music, it gave her hope. It gave me hope. Would you possibly consider teaching her? I know you're busy, but even just a few lessons would mean the world to us. Maya looked down at the little girl, who was staring up at her with such hope in her eyes. She thought about all the times people had told her to give up music, to be practical, to focus on something more reliable. She thought about how much it had hurt every time she'd had to say no to herself. No to her dreams. No to the thing she loved most. She knelt down next to the wheelchair so she was eye level with the girl. "What's your name?" Maya asked softly. "Lily," the girl said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Lily, I would love to teach you piano," Maya said, and she meant it with her whole heart. "I absolutely would love to. We'll figure it out together, okay?" Lily's face lit up with the biggest smile Maya had ever seen. The girl's mother was crying openly now, mouthing thank you over and over. Maya stood back up, wiping her own tears away. She looked at Robert, at Caroline, at Patricia, who was watching everything with wide eyes, at all these wealthy people who were seeing her. Really seeing her for the first time? "Yes," Maya said, her voice stronger now. "Yes to everything. I don't know how I'm going to do all of this, but yes." The crowd around her erupted in applause again. Patricia stepped forward and did something Maya never expected. She hugged her. Actually hugged her right there in front of everyone. "I'm sorry I doubted you," Patricia whispered. "You just saved this entire event, look." Maya turned to see what Patricia was pointing at. Throughout the ballroom, people were writing checks, pulling out their phones to make donations online. The energy in the room had completely changed. People weren't thinking about leaving early anymore. They were inspired, moved, ready to give generously to the children's hospital. One older man in the back raised his glass and announced loudly, "I'm doubling my donation tonight. That performance deserves it." Other people started calling out too, pledging more money, bigger contributions than they'd originally planned. Maya watched in amazement as the fundraiser she'd been so worried about became the most successful one the hospital had ever had. Maya barely slept that night. She kept replaying everything in her mind, convinced she'd wake up and discover it had all been a dream. But when she checked her phone in the morning, there were 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages. Real messages from real people. Robert from the Chen Foundation wanted to meet for lunch to discuss contract details. Caroline from the Arts Journal needed to schedule an interview. Even Patricia had texted, asking if Maya could come to the hotel to talk about her future there. Her hands were still shaking as she scrolled through the messages. This was actually happening. Her life was actually changing. Tommy knocked on her bedroom door around 9. "Hey, why aren't you at work?" he called through the door. "You're usually gone by now." Maya opened the door and just looked at her brother. He was 17 now, tall and skinny, with the same dark hair and eyes as their mom. He was having a good day today. She could tell by the way he was standing, not hunched over from pain. The medication was working. "Tommy, something happened last night," she said, and then the whole story came pouring out. The canceled pianist stepping up to perform, the standing ovation, the job offer, everything. Tommy's eyes got wider and wider as she talked. Wait, he said when she finished. "You played piano? In front of all those rich people? And they actually liked it?" "They loved it," Maya said, still hardly believing it herself. "Tommy, they really loved it. And Robert offered me a job that pays $60,000 a year." Tommy grabbed her in a hug so tight she could barely breathe. "Maya, oh my God. This is amazing. This is what you've always wanted. You get to play music again." But as Tommy pulled back, Maya saw something else in his expression. Worry, maybe? Or guilt? "What is it?" she asked. "Nothing, it's just..." Tommy looked down at his feet. You gave up music because of me. Because of Mom and me? If we hadn't gotten sick, you'd already be doing this. You'd be performing and happy and living your dream. Maya's heart broke a little. Tommy, no. Don't think that way. I chose to take care of you. I chose to be there for Mom. Those weren't sacrifices. That was love. And yeah, it was hard, and yeah, I missed music every single day. But I never regretted being there for you guys, never. But now you get a second chance, Tommy said, and this time he was smiling for real. How many people get that? How many people get to have their dreams come back after giving them up? Maya thought about that as she got ready to meet Robert for lunch. Tommy was right. This was a second chance. She'd accepted that her life as a musician was over, that she'd made her choice and had to live with it. But here it was, coming back to her in the most unexpected way possible. The restaurant where she met Robert was nice. Really nice. The kind of place where Maya would normally be serving tables, not sitting at them. She'd worn her best outfit, the same black dress from the night before, and she still felt underdressed compared to everyone else there. Robert was already waiting when she arrived. He stood up and shook her hand warmly like they were old friends. Maya, thank you for coming. Please sit. Order whatever you'd like. They talked for over 2 hours. Robert explained what the Chen Foundation did, supporting music programs in underfunded schools, providing instruments to kids who couldn't afford them, offering scholarships to talented students from low-income families. Basically, he said, we try to make sure that kids don't have to give up music just because they're poor. We try to make sure that talent gets nurtured, not wasted. Maya felt tears prickling her eyes. This was exactly the kind of program that could have helped her family 7 years ago. Maybe if something like this had existed, she wouldn't have had to choose between school and taking care of her family. We want you to be part of this, Robert continued. Not just as a performer, but as a symbol of why this work matters. You're living proof of what happens when talented people don't get the support they need. But you're also proof that it's never too late. That talent doesn't disappear just because life gets hard. What would I actually do? Maya asked. I mean, day to day? You'd perform at our fundraising events probably 8 to 10 times a year. You'd visit schools and talk to students about your journey. You'd mentor some of our scholarship recipients. And honestly, you'd help us figure out how to reach more people like you. People who fell through the cracks. The salary was real. $60,000 to start with room to grow. Full benefits, including health insurance that would cover Tommy. Flexible hours so she could finish her degree if she wanted, though Robert suggested she might want to consider going back to music school instead. Think about it, Robert said. You don't have to decide everything today. But I'd like to have you start within the month if possible. We have a big event coming up and I'd love for you to perform. Maya left that lunch feeling like she was floating. She had 3 more meetings that day. Caroline wanted to interview her for the article. A local news station had somehow heard about her performance and wanted to do a segment, and the hotel manager, Mr. Harrison, wanted to see her. That last meeting was the one that made Maya most nervous. She was pretty sure she was about to get fired. After all, she'd abandoned her waitressing duties in the middle of a shift to play piano. That couldn't be okay, even if it had worked out well. But when she walked into Mr. Harrison's office, he was smiling. Maya, please sit down. I've been hearing incredible things about last night. I'm sorry I left my station, Maya said quickly. I know I should have finished my shift, but Patricia needed someone and I just thought. Mr. Harrison held up his hand. Maya, you're not in trouble. The opposite, actually. Your performance saved that fundraiser. The hospital called this morning. They raised $400,000 last night. That's 3 times what they usually make at these events. Maya's mouth fell open. $400,000 for sick kids. Because she'd played piano. I have a proposition for you, Mr. Harrison continued. We'd like to offer you a position as the hotel's resident pianist. You'd play in the lobby during dinner hours and at special events when we need you. The pay would be substantially more than what you make as a waitress. We're talking about $40,000 a year plus tips. 2 job offers in one day. Maya couldn't process it. Mr. Harrison, I don't know what to say. That's incredibly generous, but I actually got another offer today. From the Chen Foundation. I heard, he said, and he didn't look upset. Robert called me this morning. He wanted to make sure we weren't going to give you trouble about leaving. I told him we'd be sad to lose you, but that we want what's best for you. And honestly, what he's offering sounds perfect for your talents. You're not angry? Maya asked. Angry? Maya, you've worked here for 3 years. You've been reliable, hardworking, kind to everyone. And last night you did something extraordinary that helped a lot of people. Why would I be angry? I'm proud of you." Maya felt the tears coming again. She seemed to be crying a lot lately. "Thank you. That means more than you know. However," Mr. Harrison added with a smile, "if the Chen Foundation thing doesn't work out, or if you want a side gig playing piano here on weekends, the offer stands. We'd be honored to have you." The news segment aired 3 days later. It was only 4 minutes long, but it covered everything. The journalist had gotten footage from the gala somehow, showing Maya walking to the piano and playing. They interviewed Robert, who talked about the importance of supporting artists. They interviewed some of the guests from that night, all of them saying how moved they'd been by her performance. But the part that made Maya cry was when they showed her with Lily, the little girl in the wheelchair. They'd filmed their first piano lesson together. Lily's face was so full of joy as Maya showed her how to position her hands on the keys, how to make the piano sing. "Everyone told me I couldn't do this," Lily said to the camera. But Maya said we'd figure it out together, and we are. The segment ended with Maya playing in the hotel lobby late at night, the way she used to practice in secret. "For 7 years, the journalist's voice said over the footage. Maya kept her gift alive in the quiet hours, never giving up on her love of music even when life demanded she give up on her dreams. Now, thanks to one moment of courage, she gets to share that gift with the world." Maya's phone exploded after the segment aired. Friend requests on social media from people she'd never met. Messages of support and encouragement. Other musicians sharing their own stories of sacrifice and struggle. Teachers reaching out to tell her she'd inspired their students. Parents of kids with disabilities asking if she'd teach their children too. But the message that meant the most came from someone unexpected. Her old piano teacher from the conservatory, Professor Winters. Maya had been too embarrassed to contact her after dropping out, convinced she'd disappointed the woman who'd believed in her so much. "Maya," the email read, "I saw the news segment. I've thought about you so often over the years, wondered where you were and what had happened. I always knew you had extraordinary talent, but I never knew how much courage and strength you had. What you did for your family was beautiful. What you did at that gala was beautiful, but what you're doing now, teaching that little girl and working with the foundation, that might be the most beautiful thing of all. You're not just making music anymore, you're making a difference. I'm so proud of you. Please come visit me soon. I'd love to hear you play again." Maya read that email 5 times, crying through every single one. She'd thought giving up music meant disappointing everyone who'd believed in her, but maybe she'd been wrong. Maybe the real disappointment would have been letting life make her bitter, letting struggle steal her passion, letting fear keep her from trying again when opportunity knocked. She started her job at the Chen Foundation 2 weeks later. The first event where she performed, she was terrified all over again. But this time it was different. This time she wasn't invisible. This time people were there specifically to hear her play. And this time she knew exactly why she was doing it. 6 months had passed since that November night at the Grand Belmont Hotel, and Maya still sometimes had to pinch herself to believe her life was real. She'd performed at 12 different events for the Chen Foundation, each one more successful than the last. The article Caroline wrote had been picked up by national publications, and suddenly people across the country knew her story. A waitress who'd given up her dreams to care for her family, only to get a second chance when she was brave. Enough to step up to that. But the thing that made Maya happiest wasn't the performances or the articles or even the steady paycheck that meant she could finally stop worrying about money all the time. It was the kids. Every week she taught piano to students who reminded her of herself. Kids from families that struggled to pay rent, let alone afford music lessons. Kids who'd been told they weren't good enough or that music wasn't practical. Kids who just needed someone to believe in them. Lily had become one of her star pupils. The little girl in the wheelchair who everyone said couldn't learn piano was now playing simple songs and working on more complicated pieces. Maya had figured out ways to adapt the lessons for Lily's specific needs, and together they'd proven that where there's determination and the right teacher, there's always a way. Today was special, though. Today was the biggest performance of Maya's new career. Carnegie Hall in New York City. The Chen Foundation had arranged a benefit concert featuring several of their success stories, and Maya was the headliner. Carnegie Hall. the same venue where the greatest pianists in the world performed. Maya had dreamed about playing there when she was a teenager, but she'd never actually thought it would happen. Tommy had taken 2 days off from his part-time job at the bookstore to come with her. He was doing well lately. The new medication was working better than the old one, and he had fewer bad days. He'd even started taking classes at community college, studying computer science. Maya had cried when he told her he'd enrolled. Finally, both of them were getting to pursue their dreams. "You nervous?" Tommy asked as they stood backstage at Carnegie Hall. He was wearing a suit that Maya had bought him for the occasion. He looked so grown up, so different from the sick kid she'd spent years worrying about. Terrified, Maya admitted. "This is Carnegie Hall, Tommy, Carnegie Hall. What if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough?" "Maya," Tommy said, putting his hands on her shoulders the way she used to do for him when he was scared. "You've already proved you're good enough. You're here, aren't you? That piano player who was supposed to perform that night at the hotel, Victoria, whatever her name was, she's probably performed here a dozen times. But you got here by being brave, by being yourself. That's better than just being good." Maya hugged her brother tight. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best," he said. Rosa was there too, sitting in the third row with a group of Maya's former co-workers from the hotel. Mr. Harrison had bought tickets for anyone who wanted to come, and almost the entire staff had taken him up on it. Patricia was there looking proud and a little bit emotional. Even some of the guests from that original gala had come, including the woman with the diamond necklace who'd cried during Maya's performance. But the person Maya was most excited to see was sitting in the front row. Professor Winters, her old piano teacher from the conservatory. They'd reconnected after that email, and Professor Winters had been helping Maya prepare for this concert. Not because Maya needed fixing, the professor had said, but because even great musicians can always grow. Working with her again had felt like coming home. Robert walked backstage to check on her. 5 minutes, he said. "How are you feeling?" "Like I might throw up," Maya said honestly. Robert laughed. "That's normal. But remember why you're here. It's not just about playing perfectly. It's about sharing your story, about showing people what's possible. There are kids in that audience tonight who need to see someone like you succeeding. Kids who've been told they can't or they shouldn't or it's too risky. You're proof that it's worth trying anyway." The stage manager gave her the signal. It was time. Maya walked out onto the Carnegie Hall stage, and the applause that greeted her was warm and welcoming. The hall was full. Every single seat was taken. All these people had come to hear her play. She sat down at the piano, a beautiful Steinway even more magnificent than the one at the hotel. For just a moment, she let herself feel the weight of where she was. Carnegie Hall, one of the most famous concert venues in the world. 7 years ago, she'd been sure this dream was dead. She'd accepted that this would never happen for her. But here she was. Maya took a deep breath and began to play. She'd chosen the same piece she'd opened with at the gala, Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. It felt right to start where her second chance had started, but this time she played it differently. This time there was no fear in her playing, no desperation, just pure love of the music and gratitude for the opportunity to share it. The program she'd planned was a journey through everything music had meant to her. The classical pieces she'd learned as a student, the contemporary songs she'd played for herself during those lonely midnight practice sessions at the hotel, a piece she'd written recently inspired by Tommy's recovery and her own second beginning. And finally, the same original composition she'd played at the gala, the one she'd written for her mom. When she played that last piece, Maya thought about everything that had led her to this moment. Her mom's illness and death, the years of struggling to keep Tommy healthy, the exhaustion of working 2 jobs, the midnight practices when she thought no one was listening, the moment of courage when she offered to step up to that piano. All of it had been necessary. All of it had shaped her into the musician she was now. As the final notes faded away, there was that familiar moment of silence. Then the audience erupted. People jumped to their feet, applauding and cheering. Maya stood and took a bow, tears streaming down her face. She could see Tommy in the wings crying too. She could see Rosa and her co-workers clapping wildly. She could see Professor Winters with her hand over her heart, mouthing, "Beautiful." But then something happened that Maya didn't expect. Robert walked onto the stage with a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice filling the hall, I have a surprise for Maya and for all of you. Maya's story has inspired so many people over the past 6 months. Her courage, her talent, and her dedication to helping other young musicians have been extraordinary. So the Chen Foundation Board of Directors has decided to do something special. Maya looked at him confused. What was happening? We're establishing a new scholarship program, Robert continued. The Maya Rodriguez Second Chance Scholarship. This fund will provide full financial support to talented music students who've had to leave their studies due to family circumstances. It will cover tuition, living expenses, and family medical costs if needed. We want to make sure that other kids like Maya don't have to choose between their dreams and their families. The applause was deafening. Maya covered her face with her hands, completely overwhelmed. A scholarship in her name, to help other people like her. It was too much. It was perfect. It was everything. The first scholarship recipient is here tonight, Robert added. I'd like to invite him to join us on stage. He gestured toward the wings, and a teenage boy walked out, looking nervous and excited. This is David. He's 17 years old. He had to drop out of music school last year when his father got sick. Thanks to the Maya Rodriguez scholarship, he's going back next semester. Maya walked over to David and hugged him. The boy was crying, thanking her over and over. You don't have to thank me, Maya said. You're talented. You deserve this. Just promise me you'll work hard and help someone else someday when you can. I promise, David said. After the concert, there was a reception where Maya got to meet so many incredible people. Music teachers who wanted to bring her story to their students. Parents of kids who'd been inspired to pursue music after hearing about her. Other musicians who'd faced similar struggles and felt less alone knowing her story. Young people who said they were going to be braver now, going to take more chances, going to believe in themselves a little more. Lily was there too, her parents having driven hours to be at the concert. The little girl wheeled right up to Maya and grabbed her hand. I want to play at Carnegie Hall someday too, Lily announced with complete confidence. You will, Maya told her. I know you will. And I'll be in the front row cheering for you. Later that night, back at the hotel, Maya stood by the window looking out at New York City. Tommy was asleep in the other bed, exhausted from the excitement of the day. Maya thought about everything that had happened since that night in November. The fear she'd felt walking up to that stage. The terror that she'd fail or embarrass herself. The certainty that she was making a huge mistake. But she'd done it anyway. That was the thing. She'd been scared, but she'd done it anyway. And that one moment of courage had changed everything. Not just for her, but for Tommy, for Lily, for David, for all the other kids who would benefit from the scholarship. One moment of bravery, of believing she still had something to offer even after years of being invisible, had created ripples that spread farther than she ever could have imagined. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rosa. You did it, girl. You really did it. I always knew you were special. So glad you finally let everyone else see it too.